Kalgoorlie, very unusual town, folks. When you come into it, most people think, yeah, another mining town. It's not. As I said, El Dorado, richest square mile of gold ever found, and streets paved with gold at one stage. Millions and millions of pounds and dollars have been taken out of this place in gold. Well, there you are, folks. I hope you enjoy your stay in Kalgoorlie. Take your time when you're travelling. Just take that little bit of extra time so you don't get tired, run off the road. Just be careful. And if you haven't been underground, about 10 minutes' time, if you'd like to go over to the head frame over there, we'll take you back to 1893.
Temperature down here is 20 degrees all year round, doesn't vary.
A good place to store your beer.
Better place to drink it.
Well, that's mobile.
Sort of go around and have a seat. Now this was the first mine in Kalgoorlie, this one. It opened in 1893, 6 months after old Paddy discovered gold. Now it closed in 1952, worked out no more gold. Eventually all good things got to come to an end, they've all got a life on them. And in 1990 it was made into a tourist mine. Now this was never part of the famous Golden Mile, it was just one seam of gold bearing quartz that went down 1,300 feet. Now those old fellas found alluvial gold up top, that's the stuff you find in the gold pan. They dug down a couple of feet, hit this seam of gold bearing quartz, and they thought that seam only came to this level, so they put the number 1 shaft down, we'll see that later, worked this level out, discovered the seam kept going down. As it was going down it was getting bigger, so they put the shaft down we just came down in. Now that shaft there went down 1,300 feet, there's 100 feet between levels, so there's 13 levels in the mine. We're on the first one, there's another 12 underneath us. Now you're not going to find any ghosts down here. This is the only mine I know I've never had a fatality. Been for about 55 years, no one's ever killed. Make you feel a bit better? Very rich, they've got 750,000 ounces of gold out here, or that's what's on the books. No one really knows how much. The whole buggers weren't stupid. Now what we're going to have a look at, it's very low and narrow, and the reason it's low and narrow done 100 years ago, pick, shovel and wheelbarrow. So we'll go and have a look at that, then we'll come back and give you a bit of an idea of the way we do it today. These lights you got through here, the only lights you have are on the plat. Now that's where we just came from. Wherever you get out of the shaft onto the level's called the plat, and in the crib house that's where you have your lunch. Now it's that black down here, you can put your hand up your nose, you won't see your hand in front of your face. Now I'm going to turn the light out, we're still going to have light both ends, just to give you a bit of an idea how black it is. Now you can imagine what it'd be like without those lights going, and this is what a miner's got, this is his cap lamp. Today they'll shine up for 100, 150 metres, and they're like your car, they've got a high beam and a low beam. High beam goes out, he'll use that low beam as an emergency to get yourself back to where we just came from, ring up, get another light sent down. Now if that one goes out, you won't move. Sit down, lay down and go to sleep. Because in Kalgoorlie, we got enough of these tunnels here, what we call drives. Now we also have these tunnels going from this level up to the next level, from this level down to the next level. Every 200 or 300 feet, and they're called rises. Now if they were all linked together, there's enough of them in Kalgoorlie to stretch from here to Sydney and back. So if he's going to start wandering around, only one place he's going to go, he's going to want a parachute. Where we're going now, like I said before, is very low and narrow. Just remember as you go through here, done 100 years ago by those old fellas with a pick, shovel and wheelbarrow. Now anyone over about 5 foot 10, 6 foot, we're going to be bent over like a half-shut pocket knife for a little while. Just remember you got an extra 3 inches on your head with your helmet. When the old blokes first got down here, this is what they had, miner's pick. And they got too hard with that, they threw that away. And away the poor old buggers went, hammer and chisel. Then with the invention of fracture and dynamite, they had to come up with a way of putting a hole in the ground to put your explosives in. So they extended the chisel about 4 foot, put a piece of tungsten in the end to make it nice and hard. That was called a moil. This little beauty here, still used underground today, 14 pound spool on there, mate. Now one man would hang on to the chisel and the other one was behind him. And they worked to a rhythm. Every time the bloke behind hit it, the other one turned it. Hit it, turn it. That was called the hammer and tap, and that was used right up to the 1920s. The reason you had to keep turning it, that's tapered, so you had to keep turning it to make a round hole. Bloke on the hammer missed, his mate didn't say much, he mumbled a bit, because the next day they swapped over. Then in 1915, they brought the first air-driven machine out from England to bore your holes with to put your explosives in. That's it here, called a Holman slammer. Yeah, as soon as the mine is sent, I thought we were going to make a fortune because that's when contract work started underground. The more you done, the more you got. Soon changed their mind after they started using it because this thing had one drawback with it, it had no water. You worked on this for any more than 4 or 5 years, you most probably did. If you weren't dead, you're an invalid for sure with miner's complaint, dust on the lungs. Now today are silicosis, and the wives of the men that worked on this thing nicknamed it the Widowmaker. And that's still what is known as today, the old Widowmaker. And that was banned from being used in any mine in Australia in 1943. Now not only they got the dust, everyone in the mine got the dust, so that dust is just going to filter right throughout the mine. You get it down in your lungs to see it the day you die, get enough of it down there and just cut your lungs to pieces. Now, if anyone's ever seen an old miner that's dusted, it's pitiful to see them. They're like an asthmatic, but they're like it for 24 hours a day. If you were to go out to the cemetery in Kalgoorlie, Kalgoorlie and have a look, you'd see heaps and heaps of graves, young blokes 25, 30, 35 years of age, died in the 20s, 30s and 40s. You can bet 75% of them worked underground. And you hear people today telling you how good the good old days were. Now in this mine here, this is what they were chasing. See that white shiny stone there? Now that's quartz. That's what the gold was in. Now there was no gold in any of this here. These are only access tunnels. But where we're going now is only a little area like this. We don't all fit in. After I tell you about it, we'll just walk up a little bit and the others can get in and have a look. And you're not going to believe what you're going to see when you get round here. You're not going to believe what can be done with a pick, shovel, hammer and chisel. We're just going around and have a look. I want to walk out there and look back up in here with these lights up. Now just stop down there. All right, mate.
Stop down there. Stand back down here, don't you get a bee.
That's it.
You can shovel.
Bloody hell.
That's what they dug out, that's where it was all.
That's where the seam was. Just keep coming in, folks.
Yeah.
You want to be looking up in here with these lights up.
Oh my God, Father.
People back there who can't see, we'll walk up here in a minute and get in and have a
Oh
look.
my God, no thanks.
Now this was mined out between 1893 and 1903. Now it goes 300 metres along this way, 33 metres through to the surface. It's what you call a stope, and you still have stopes underground, and they still look similar to this, and the stope's where you take the ore body out from between the ground. Now in this case it was that white quartz I showed you around there, that's what the gold was in, well that's where the seam ran up through here, that's what they've taken out. Now no ore body will ever run straight up and down, and ore body's always on an angle. You can see the angle this one ran on. When you take the seam out from between the ground, it leaves this wall here hanging over the top of you. That wall's called your hanging wall. The one over here is your footwall. Now even today you still work from your hanging wall to your footwall. That's where your ore body starts, that's where it finishes. No good taking any of this, any of that, there's no gold in that whatsoever, just that seam of quartz. These pieces of timber here, they're just straight out of the bush, they're called toms, been in here for 100 years helping to support the wall, and they're still as good as the day they put in. If they were to start to splinter, you'd know this wall was starting to move, so you put bigger timber in and more timber. If it's still starting to splinter, you get the hell out of it, because no matter what you do, if it's going to come in, it'll come.
Right.
Now when you hit into quartz, quartz splinters just like glass, so you can imagine hitting into that all day with a pick and a chisel, getting it down on your lungs. No wonder they only live to be 25, 30, 35 years of age. Now this was all done with a pick, shovel, hammer and chisel and the dirt, wheeled up these little tunnels with a wheelbarrow. Today we've got it all lit up in floodlight. Just remember those old fellas knew with a candle. It took them 10 years to mine this out. Today with the explosives, we'd knock it out in 4 or 5 months. Now this is the way we do it today, a bit different from the old blokes done it in the old days. Now that's how your dirt is after it comes out from the firing. That's been fired up in there, and that's how your dirt looks exactly like that. Then you've got to clean it up. Well this is the machine you use, it's called a 9K rail body, still used down here today. They've done away with the shovel underground, we've got little truck hooks on the back of it, bucket on the front, operator stands in that footplate on the side. His controls, driven by air hose goes in that part there. Come in, drive it into the dirt, fill the bucket up, and the bucket will come right over 180 degrees, straight past your head, throw the dirt into the truck. Now, if you're not concentrating on what you're doing, you've got your head up over that bar there, that bucket will take your head off. When that many people maimed and killed on these things, it's not funny. You can see there's not a lot of room for someone to be standing. They've got to have it and getting a bit of rock on the rail and jumping sideways. Now I've used these underground, always that careful with them. I had a brother killed on one of these when he was 24. So after we got rid of all our dirt up there, we've got to go and bore it out again. To put your holes in, to put your explosives in. Take the rock drill over here, that's the rock drill over there. Back up to where we're working, that's called the base. We're going to bore that out, take 27, 30 holes. Take 2.5, 3 hours, take about 40 tonnes of ore. Now the explosive we use down here today, we don't use fracture and dynamite anymore, we use AMPO. Now AMPO is made up of nitrate of ammonia, which is a fertiliser, put it on your garden, make your garden grow, very cheap. You mix 6% diesel-lean with it, if you've got a detonator, straight away you've got a bomb. Building blown up in Oklahoma Road 9 years ago, 150 people killed, they used AMPO. IRA used to buy by the tonne. Only 2 times during the day down here you're allowed to fire. Now in this mine was lunchtime, 12, 12 o'clock, 3:30 till half time. So 12:15, everyone must be in the crib room ready for lunch. As soon as everyone's in the crib room, people are firing and walk out, press the button, go away, have your lunch, give time for the dust and smoke to settle. Come back after lunch, pick your water hose up, you wash all your walls down, all your roof down, and saturate your dirt so you haven't got that dust problem now for us in the old days. Plus when you've washed your walls and your roof down, you can see any loose rock on the wall over your head, see any cracks that's opened up from your firing, and it's up to a miner to make it safe because you're the one who's going to be working underneath it. So you pick your bar up, and that's the best wind you got down here. You won't live long if you haven't got one of those. That's what you put up into the cracks, the lever all the loose stuff from over your head, off the side of the wall. After you've done that, if you know what you're doing at all, you should be able to tell what that ground's like just by hitting it with a bar. You just listen to the 2 different sounds. Here, this one here is very, very solid. Now listen to this one here. That's cracked right up through the side. Now, if that was on the roof, it'd be like a big shell sitting there, like a big drum, what we call drumming. Won't bar down too bad to get under, so you've got to pin it. Pick the rock drill up, bore a hole straight up through the lump, just like that hole there. Put 2 tubes of chemical up into the hole, then you're going to insert one of these steel pins, which is 2 metres long with a plate on. Push up with that rock drill under pressure. As it's pushing up, it's spinning and it's mixing the 2 tubes of chemical together, and within 3 seconds that'll hold about 12 tonne. And they're called rock bolts. They're the main ground support we use down here today. They've done away with all the timber underground. Timber's too hard to get, too expensive. Now those rock bolts can be a foot, 18 inches apart, depending on how bad the ground is. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them used underground. Now this machine here is the one we still use down here today. Now this one's a bit different than the old widow maker. This one here is a money maker. Probably 25% of the men working underground today still use these. They're called an air leg miner. Well, this one's got water on. The water goes down through the machine. The piece on the end is steel, hollow in the middle. On the end of the steel is a tungsten tip bit. As it's rotating, it's cutting away the ground. So the water goes down through the steel, it'll lubricate the tungsten tip bit, plus eliminates all the dust. Very heavy, weighs around about 60 kilos, but it's very powerful. That piece there, that's your muscle, that's your air leg. That's where the term air leg miner comes from. That does all the work for you. Turn that on, that'll lift it up. As it's lifted up, it's forcing it into the ground. Now it's that powerful, that'll push a 2 metre hole in this sort of ground in about 2 minutes. Every time a miner wants to bore a hole, he'll lift it around, so you don't see any old blokes over about 50 having that back problem somewhere on the line. Now a miner today, he's going to try and clean all that dirt up. Take the rock drill up, pour it out, load up. He's going to try and do 3 of those every 2 days. Probably 25% of the men working on these things can do 3 every 2 days, the other 75 can do 1 a day. If you're good enough to do 3 every 2 days, depending on what company you work for, you can knock out anywhere between $800 and $1,200 a day. If you can do it once a day, you can make between $400 and $600. And that's what she's all about down here chasing a quid. A miner wants to hear this singing, the company want to hear us singing. While they're singing, you know you're making money. They know they're making money, but as soon as you turn it off, your money stops because everyone's on contract. If you smoke, sit down for 10 minutes to have a smoke, 10 minutes you've wasted. If you don't do nothing, you don't get nothing. The more you do, the more you get. Now I've seen people make up to $2,500 a day. Really bad ground, falling in everywhere. You nearly want to be full of grog or drugs just to walk underneath it. First thing the men say to the company, go and jump, no bugger silly enough to work under that. Then the company will come up with an absolute ridiculous amount of money. We'll give you X amount of dollars for every metre you get to get through that area. They put the carrot out there, you'll always get someone silly enough to chase the carrot. Good luck to them, they want to make it quid. But down here you want to know what you're doing. It's no good being the richest bloke in the cemetery's full of rich people. Now you probably all heard that song Shaking All Over. And they wrote that song, I reckon, down here watching us silly old buggers, because after about 4 hours in this thing, you're not only shaking, you're vibrating. But you're still knocking out a quid. So I turn the air on, so listen up in the air. That'll lift the man up in the air, no trouble at all. So young blokes come down here, grab hold of these things, going to show them old buggers how it's done. What we call our back holes, the ones you bore right up along the top. Turn the air leg on too far. Next thing you're up in the air, hands spin to the roof, feet that far off the ground, and they're screaming, get us down, get us down. Now this runs at 104 decibels. Just remember you haven't turned the screamer off, you're still at that screamer screaming away out there at 112. Now today the mining companies, they supply the men with ear protection, safety glasses, gloves, dust masks, respirators, hard hats, safety toe boots. The emphasis today is safety, safety, safety. A bit different than that up from about 25, 30 years ago. Money came first, safety came second, no ear protection. This is what a miner put up with 8 hours a day. And we've got a little girl over here from the Gold Coast. Well, I'm going to get you to come over and give me a hand and ball this up. Now, I reckon you make a good mini miner.
You didn't see these kids, did you? Yeah. They used to be out jumped up there.
And you can always tell a miner when he walks into the pub after he's had 8 hours of one of these things, he's only going to ask for half a beer. We've got a few ladies here. I'm going to let you ladies a little secret before we go. Usually don't tell ladies this. But you've probably all heard our miners got a pretty fair sort of a reputation for being pretty good drinkers. Well, you just imagine the poor old bugger. He's been up there with that screamer screaming in his ear for 8 hours. He's been down here wrestling with this screamer for 8 hours. And what's he got to do at knock off time?
Go on.
Yeah, go home the other screamer.
Yeah.
Any questions, folks?
Some.
Well, on behalf of the company myself, I'd like to thank you for coming. I hope you like us a little bit in the way we do things down here. I know you're all on holidays, touring around. Enjoy the rest of your stay in Cal. Above all, have a safe trip wherever you're going. Go around the corner, we'll get you back to the good old Kalgoorlie sunshine.